Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today and welcome you to today's webinar on the crisis resources available to our business community during this COVID emergency. Resilience, resourcefulness, and drive are hallmarks of small business owners, and they are being put to the test right now. The adaptations, modifications, and creative ways that businesses are shifting is key in helping us flatten the curve for the good of all of our community. And for many, this means taking a significant financial hit as well. We are grateful to have strong relationships with our local, state, and national leaders who recognize this and are working to assist the small leaders. So today, it's why we feel so lucky to have two great advocates for our business community here with us to talk about the ways they're working to assist the business community and provide resources to it to help our community make it through these difficult times. So just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. We will be taking questions and answers at the end of both speakers' presentations, at the end entirely. You should see a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen if you want to submit some questions. Our two guests are City of San Luis Obispo City Manager Derek Johnson and Director of the Small Business Development Center Judy Mahan. Thank you both for being with us today. Let me start with City Manager Derek Johnson. We at the Chamber appreciate all the work we've been doing together to help the business community, and I want to see if you could just walk us through the things the city has been doing to try and assist our community.
Great. Well, thanks, Jim. I'm just going to start a brief presentation, and I do want to thank the Chamber and Judy. It has been a full team effort. In full slow style, everyone has come together, leaned in, and done some amazing work to support each other. We've got some challenging times ahead, and I want to talk about some of those challenging times ahead and the resources that we've put together, and of course, provide an opportunity for people to ask questions. So I'm going to share my screen here and jump into the presentation. Is that working there, everyone?
Looks good.
Okay, great.
I think we're good, Derek. Okay,
fantastic. So again, thank you to the Chambers. Thank you to the membership for your time and participating today. And I want to just, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the members for all that they're doing. I just had the chance to come from the alternative care site with a group of elected officials and other members as we looked at all the amazing work by the business community, essentially stand up an alternative care site in less than 2 weeks. You could really see San Luis Obispo's spirit, ingenuity, and everything come together in an amazing way. The private sector has really rallied to support our community, and the care is really shining through. So I'm going to walk you through just a little bit about where are we now, and I think some of this information, of course, is readily available to the community. Actually, it's probably unknown to a lot of people that at least local government, as we started to monitor events that were happening overseas and landing here in our county, that's a lot of this planning work between the city and the county began in the middle of February, in which the public health department was really starting to begin some work. The city of San Luis Obispo, of course, we don't have epidemiologists, we don't have doctors. The role for public health is clearly with the county, mental health services, social services, et cetera. But as you know, and the business community knows, the city has a central role to play in terms of providing services. Some of these numbers I'm going to update throughout our presentation. As we know, as of yesterday, we had 89 cases just in a little short time of over 2 weeks since our first case was put in place. The city managers and the county administrative officer, Wade Horton, are having calls 3 times a week to look at orders and enforcement and really compliance with an effort to really try to smooth the curve. I talked about the alternative care site. And all the work that's been put into that, all the logistics, and our fantastic partnership with Cal Poly. We at the city, we share a data link with them, And our IT went into full gear to support the transition of the recreation center to an alternative care site. We all know that the peak is still to come. And here's a graphic that's widely that you'll see these days on the internet. And it shows, at least based upon the track cases, what we're trying to accomplish, which is ultimately flatten the curve, smooth the curve, and make sure we have enough healthcare capacity and resources to make sure we can minimize the loss of life. This is the data just as of noon today. We're up to 93 cases. We have 30 that are at home. We have 57 that have recovered, 6 hospitalized, and fortunately, we've had no deaths. You can see on the right part of the screen the trajectory of number of cases. And if you've had an opportunity to tune into Dr. Bornstein's 315 conferences every day, along with Wade Horton, you'll know that the anticipated trajectory is a doubling of cases roughly every 3 days. In the last week, the data and information has been coming out more seamlessly, and it's being distributed by region, or was previously by region and now by city. And you can see ultimately where the city of San Luis Obispo is compared to the other cities. We all recognize that this virus knows no boundaries, and the purpose of this is just to give us a more granular sense of where we need, particularly we need to be paying attention, both countywide, but also within the city. So what has the city been doing? Our job is really about delivering essential city services, water, wastewater, making sure we have continuity of operations for our police and fire departments, preparing plans in partnership with the county, and making sure we have clear protocols for transporting people to hospitals or to the alternative care site. We've been in very much close contact with the county and following their guidance and public health officials. There has been an amazing unified approach throughout this county. And I think that speaks to all of the foundational work that the chamber has done and our region has done, is to look at issues regionally. That model has served us in an amazing way during this pandemic crisis. I've talked about the continuity of essential services. That has been our focus, to make sure that there's no interruption in services, and that we're doing a variety of scenarios based upon both minimum and worst best cases of how the disease might trickle and percolate through our community. The council took swift and decisive action back on March 17th, following a proclamation by myself as serving as the Emergency Services Director. And the purpose of that is, of course, is to reflect a lot of the orders that are either coming down from the state or from the county. And then on the 17th of March, at that same day, we stood up our Emergency Operations Center, and we've had it operating every single day since that time. We are also concurrently, as we're fighting this pandemic, we're also making sure we're looking out at the other disaster, which is providing local business support. We have been responsive in providing information to both commercial and residential tenants who have suffered enormous economic loss, job loss, and a variety of other economic issues, and making sure they understand their rights both under state proclamations and county orders. We have been working tirelessly to flatten the curve. And we took some very early efforts with the county to temporarily disallow the sale of on-site alcohol for the St. Patrick's Day. We've had to quickly adapt and postpone special events like our cherished farmers markets and other events that that were scheduled throughout this spring. We have been extremely active on our physical distancing Save Lives campaign, and we've altered our staffing deployment models. You may have read earlier this week in KSBY that today, like many businesses, specifically for the city of San Luis Obispo, we have 100 less employees working than we did just a few weeks ago. On the economic side, as I pointed out, we're fighting 2 battles at once. We're fighting a health battle and health and safety battle, but also an economic crisis like we've never seen before. We have worked very closely with the Chamber, with downtown San Luis Obispo on the appropriate measures to put in place for the closure of non-essential businesses, having to make sure that we have safety and security for businesses that are not operating right now. We've seen a tremendous decline in tourism and temporary hotel closures, in which our occupancy is in the single or low double digits. And we've seen with the announcement of President Armstrong in the middle of March that students would not be returning to Cal Poly for the spring quarter, and that the spring quarter would be happening virtually. But we're also trying to make sure that people remember SLO and that they remember the spirit of San Luis Obispo, because tourism is a core part of our economy, and it will be integral to the economic recovery of our county and our region. And we've pivoted from the conversation campaign of getting visitors here to nurture a campaign to keep our audience emotionally connected to San Luis Obispo. The SLO TBID adopted a COVID-19 response plan, changed our message from "be here" to "we will see you here" when it's safe to travel again, and to make sure that people know that we're here, and when the time is right for people to come back and be our guests, that we'll be there to receive them. The city organization is being impacted too, and we've had to make some critical adjustments to our services. We've had to close non-essential services, and we are forecasting significant revenue shortfalls. And I'll be giving a presentation to the City Council on Tuesday. What just was a month ago when we went to the City Council with our mid-year budget report, in which we forecasted a 10-year surplus to make headway in paying down our PERS liability. That's transformed to what we're forecasting to be anywhere from a $10 to $20 million deficit. We're going to need to proactively address that issue. And we know that we can do that by focusing, like we've always done, on the challenges that unite us. And I know that we will be ultimately stronger together. But we want to know at the end of the day that we're here for you. We are in the process right now of expanding our economic branch of our and recovery branch of our Emergency Operations Center to meet the county and state and federal officials where we need to meet them. We have ongoing communications with the business community via our website, social media, and physical signs throughout the community. We have formed a shelter-at-home business and community hotline, in which is a model for our community, in which we are processing requests and applications from the business community about whether or not they're essential or not, and just to have health information, because we've heard loud and clear that our business owners want to do the right thing, and they're just looking for government for guidance and information about how they can do the right thing. We've completely changed the way we're doing parking downtown, from what was a community-wide issue of trying to find parking to moving to an environment where we're providing free downtown parking for curbside pickup and takeout. In just a matter of days, we worked with all of our restaurants and who were providing takeout and delivery to make sure that they have visibility on site, and that they're accessible to the community who wants to continue to support them. This afternoon, I think as we rolled out this webinar, we were rolling out our retailers map so that people in the community knew which retailers were open in the city of San Luis Obispo. And we've also continued to provide essential services, adjusting business and being innovative. We're doing permitting and process review online. We're doing inspections via technology. We've had to make adjustments to water and wastewater to adjust teams to make sure that we have the continuity to provide those services, and the same thing with our public safety teams. And here's just a couple examples of the communication efforts that you're seeing online, in media, on radio, to make sure that people know that we're here and we care, and that we have compassion for our community, and that we're looking out for you in the short and long haul. You may have seen some of these signs that have been posted around the city of San Luis Obispo. And this is really a grassroots effort. And I have to do a shout out to my friend Matt Coaglino, who came to us with this idea about how do we put some visibility out there about our values, what we believe in, and what we believe we can do working together. And this kind of community-driven effort really speaks to the strength and the ingenuity of both San Luis Obispo, and certainly speaks to the American spirit. So what's next for us? We want to continue to flatten the curve. We're not there yet. We've got a couple weeks to go. We are in the process of working on our roadmap to reopening our economy here locally. We will be your strong advocates at the federal and state level to make sure that our business community understands, and Judy's going to be speaking to this, about all of the programs that are available to small businesses. And we believe out of this, we'll be developing a strong regional, city, and economic recovery plan in partnership with the Chamber. We've had lots of conversations late into the night, early in the morning with REACH, the Chamber, with Downtown SLO, Hot House, and the Small Business Development Center. And as I mentioned before, we're actively working with the county economic recovery team. So I just would leave you with this. I think this reflects, I think, the spirit of San Luis Obispo, where we are today, where we can go. And I believe that we are compassionate, we are resilient, we're strong, and we're San Luis Obispo. And I look forward to working with you and supporting small business and the business community and the needs that you have.
Well, Derek, this is Jim, and want to say thank you so much for that. And thank you for yours and the City Council's efforts. We know none of the decisions that you've had to make and for the good of our community have been easy, but we know specifically that you have been doing everything you can to try and minimize that impact on us. So again, we have a couple questions. We'll take those at the end, but I think a great example is specifically on the essential businesses piece. You were right on it, figuring out a way to work with the county. And we've been so appreciative of that, because that really helped in a time of, some gray area, the ability to make that work. So we're certainly thrilled to have you at the helm, but also the council for leaning in on this and making sure that we, take care of the whole community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So then on our next guest, and is perfect timing, I would say, because today is the day that the PPP goes live. And I know there are lots of questions about that, I'm sure. And a lot, even just yesterday, responses as to how things are changing on the emergency disaster loans. So we're so glad to have the director of the SBDC, Judy Mahan, with us. And so there's obviously a ton of things that you could go on, and we have a lot of time for it, but I'm just gonna actually turn it over to you to start where you think best as you are dealing with this kind of constant change, and hope that you'll figure the best way to get there. And we appreciate you being here today. So I'll turn it over to Judy Mahan.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much. Thank you, Derek. And thank you, Dan Rivoire, for organizing this webinar. I'm really so pleased to have the opportunity to share as much information with as many people as possible. So right now there are two options for disaster relief, two pathways, and I want to share the strategy that we've put in place so far in guiding our clients along these two paths. You'll see in the chat box, I just shared the link to the first loan option that we have, and then I'm going to explain. I'm also going to do a quick share screen so you can see what I'm, actually, I need to, sorry. Okay, I was trying to do a share screen, but it's not quite cooperating with me. So I've shared the link in the chat box. So I'll just provide some explanation first. So we'll go back to the share screen later. But basically 2 weeks ago, the SBA rolled out a program called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL loan. That was made available 2 weeks ago. Some people have applied for that loan, applied for it immediately. Version 3 of the portal for EIDL came out on Monday. So I'm going to give you some explanation onto what the EIDL loan represents and next steps for those who applied prior to Monday's date. The EIDL loan is a loan at 3.75% with a 30-year term. Payments are being deferred for 12 months. The only item that that the applicant needs to showcase is revenue loss, some type of revenue loss during Q1 of 2020. We're entering into Q2, so you can count Q2 in as well. They will compare those first quarters of 20 to your Q1 and Q2 of 2019. If you can show the start of some revenue loss, there's an assumption that that revenue loss will keep increasing over the next 4 to 8 weeks. And so you will likely qualify for the loan. That's the number one thing that they're looking at. Within this loan program, there is a what's called an advance loan. We've been calling it a grant. They just recently changed the language. They don't want us to call it a grant. They want to call it an advance payment. But that advance payment will not need to be repaid. It is up to $10,000. That advance payment of up to $10,000 was not available prior to Monday. So anyone who applied for an EIDL loan prior to Monday's date needs to go back into the portal on the link that we just shared in the chat box, reapply for EIDL a second time, and check the box to state that they are seeking the $10,000 advance grant. So the SBA is not calling it a grant. We are. The reason being that you do not need to pay it back. That amount will be deposited into your checking account within 3 days. So we have seen businesses obtain that money in their checking account as of yesterday. And those are for the businesses who actually applied very first thing Monday morning. So the money is starting to come in, it's starting to trickle in. So we're seeing the outcomes of that. So if you have not applied yet, please do. You will see that money being transferred directly into your checking account within 3 days. So be sure to have handy as you're completing that form, the checking account number for your business, as well as the routing number of your bank. If you don't know the routing number of your bank, you can actually just Google, for example, Chase routing number California. The routing number will pop up immediately. Just copy paste that number and throw it in. So you shouldn't have too much difficulty filling out those 2 boxes. So that's for the EIDL loan. I think I mentioned that payments are deferred for 12 months. So a lot of questions we're getting is, what if I apply for the loan, but then I decide I don't need it? That's absolutely fine. Just try to qualify for it, apply for it. If in 2 months business picks back up, we're back to our new normal, you can make a lump sum repayment of that loan. There is no prepayment penalty of any type that'll kick in. So, you know, better safe than sorry. Apply for it, get in line, get the advance loan that doesn't need to be repaid, and just, you know, create a safety net for yourself. The second pathway is the one that came live today. It's the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP loan. That became effective as of today, April 3rd. This is a loan that you need to apply for through your bank. The EIDL loan that we just went over is a loan that you applied for as a business owner directly with the SBA on the link that was shared on the chat box. The PPP loan, you cannot complete the forms and submit them to the SBA. There's been some confusion around that. We've had business owners access the forms online, fill them out, and asking us, where do I send them? They need to be submitted by your banker. You need to work through your bank. So step 1 on PPP, today, or as soon as you can, call your bank, the bank that you bank with for your business, to ask them, are you processing PPP loans? If they are, those banks are giving priority to their client base. They are giving priority to the clients that are within their portfolio, which is completely understandable and completely normal. If they have extra bandwidth, they may agree to process PPP loan applications for non-clients. but at this point in time, they're prioritizing their own clients. Call your bank, ask them if they're processing PPP loans. If they're not, come back to us. We're trying to compile a list of banks that are willing to, that have the bandwidth, the infrastructure, and are able to take on additional non-clients to help them process those loans. It's a big task right now. The banks are overwhelmed. They're getting a lot of demand. We may not have a validated list of banks that can help you until Monday. Just sit tight. We're compiling the list. We will share it as soon as it's available. How does PPP work? It is a 2-year term on the loan at 0.5%, extremely low interest rate. It is 2 years. It was originally going to be 10 when the CARES Act came into effect last Friday. It's been amended since last Friday. It is now 2 years. The intention for this loan is to cover payroll costs, for employers to be able to cover payroll costs over the next 8 weeks. That's the intention of the loan. And the reason I want to clarify that is because the way you apply for it and make your calculations on how to apply for it are entirely based on your payroll expenses. And the amount of that loan that will actually get forgiven is entirely based on the amount that you spend from the loan to cover payroll costs. So the way the loan is calculated is they will take your average payroll expense for 1 month during 2019 and multiply that number by 2.5. So it's not a very large amount of a loan. It's only to cover the next 8 weeks of payroll. That's the intention. You'll see the new forms that came out this morning. They are different from the ones that came out yesterday morning. So there has been an update. Get the latest forms. They're asking you to provide them, the SBA is asking the bank to provide them with your average monthly cost for payroll in 19 times 2.5 plus whatever you've received under EIDL. So if you were a very early filer under the EIDL loan 2 weeks ago, you may have started a conversation with your case manager from the SBA to determine a loan amount under EIDL. If you have obtained a loan amount under EIDL and you intend to pursue that loan amount, you will need to add that to your total of your 1 month of average monthly expense for payroll times 2.5 plus what you're receiving under EIDL. And I think the intention there, from what I understand, is the SBA is trying to roll the EIDL loans into PPP so that you are under one disaster loan. You can apply for both. Please apply for both. But eventually the SBA will likely roll both into one to simplify the process so that you only have one disaster loan for your business in place at any given time. But until then, please apply for both. The intention again under PPP is for you to cover payroll. So only the amount that you spend from that loan to cover payroll will be forgiven. There's some fine print there. You can use that loan to pay interest on mortgage payments that you're paying for your commercial mortgage. You can use a portion of that loan to pay rent and to pay utilities. So you can use that loan to pay other things, but whatever you use it for that are non-payroll related will not be forgiven. Only up to 25% of the total amount used to pay non-payroll items will be forgiven as part of the loan. So use that loan wisely. And here is the overarching recommendation that we're making at this time. Apply for EIDL and for PPP. Max out the use of PPP to cover payroll. Get maximum forgiveness on that loan. You will not have to pay back what you use for payroll. And use your EIDL loan to pay all of your other business expenses. So that's the strategy we're recommending right now as of today. Depending on how things play out, how the EIDL loan is rolled into PPP in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, there may be some changes that need to be made to that strategy, but until then, this is a strategy that we recommend. what else can I share on these 2 loans? That's sort of the big picture. We're here to help. I will also share in the chat box. I'm going to give you a link to sign up with the SBDC. Once you sign up, I'm sharing it right now as we speak. Once you sign up with us, you are immediately assigned to one of our lead consultants. We have 12 consultants that are working full-time, 24/7 to process, help business owners process the applications for these loans. In addition to our 12-person task force that we have in place, we've had, the community has really rallied. We're putting in place 4 different task forces to help with what we're calling, overflow, if you will. We have these 4 task forces. They are banking, accounting, HR, and e-commerce. We have volunteers from the entire community, from the bank community, from our accounting firms, our HR specialists, experts in e-commerce that have volunteered their time and will be volunteering their time daily starting on Monday to help assist clients that have more specific nitty-gritty questions in connection with this loan process, in connection with maintaining and surviving from the business perspective over the next couple months. So with the lead SBDC consultant will determine the needs that the owner has and will help guide the owner through these virtual open office hours that will be available starting on Monday, with a battery of experts that are volunteering their time over the next 8 weeks to help support you in your business. So please do apply with us, do sign up. We will figure out a way to support you, to provide resources, to guide you through this. We're here to help. And I'm happy to answer questions. But I just want to really share the big picture on the 2 pathways with these loans right now.
Yeah, Judy, thank you. That's very helpful. And yes, there are a lot of questions kind of flowing in. So it'll be great to kind of get you to kind of check in on some of these. So first question came in about how PPP is working and how it's going through the banks, and whether and have actually really been submitted to the banks, or are they kind of holding as they're waiting for referrals, and when can they expect applications and monies to flow?
Right. So, okay. So under the EIDL loan, people have started having conversations with their case managers. So that's happening. Once the package has been completed with a case manager under EIDL, the expectation is that the monies will be made available 3 weeks from that time, 2 to 3 weeks. Under PPP, they're just being submitted today for the very first time. I don't even know if complete packages are actually making it through today quite yet. That is the intention. I'll have a better sense by the end of the day. And same type of thing. So on PPP, SBA has promised a 7 to 10 day turnaround. But keep in mind, that's once a complete package has been submitted. There is backup documentation that will be needed to make the determination of an affirmation on what the loan amount can be for that business. They want to see capacity for repayment, obviously, and also proof of revenue loss are the 2 main items.
Great. Yeah, that's certainly, we know there's a lot of things changing day by day, and certainly as this is a massive new program, obviously trying to do this nationally will take some time. Just real quick, I had a question. The website to apply for the EIDL loan is at the one you posted earlier, correct?
Correct.
The covid19relief.sba.gov.
Correct.
Great. Okay. So real quick, and I know there was a couple that got answered off line by Derek, and I just want to kind of read them, and just in case the attendees can't do it, but the question was that Derek mentioned a retailer's map, but was under the impression the shelter-at-home order precluded our ability to sell during this time. Did that mean that service businesses that have retail products are able to continue to sell our retail products if it's a hands-off pickup delivery? And Derek had brought back the answer, and I'll let you, actually, Derek, you're here. Go ahead. Give it a shot.
Well, thanks, Jim. So the answer is we've set up a process with the city, and so I put it in the link, and we'll make sure that that's available for businesses to make a determination of whether or not they're an essential business. So the retailer's map is for essential businesses, and I know there's a lot of gray, and I'm seeing some of the questions that are coming in about whether or not your business is essential or not essential. And as I indicated earlier, we've processed dozens of applications, and we try to do that within a few hours, because we know if you're a business, if you're open and you're unsure or you want to open up, it's important for you and your employees. So put the information in, you apply, essentially we'll process the application and get a determination back. And so for those businesses that are clearly essential, we've put you on that map. If you were not certain and you've gone through the process and been deemed essential, or you're able to operate under certain parameters, we're placing you on that map.
Great, thank you, Derek. And yeah, that has been extremely helpful for those pieces, because some of the, obviously you're trying to make rules at the state level, at the county level, at the city level, and how it applies to everybody. It's been truly appreciated that you've worked to see all those gray areas, how that can all fit together. Truly appreciated.
Yeah, and we've tried to make it work as businesses have come in. And so if you don't quite fit in a box, we're trying to work with the county to see what is possible, recognizing that in some instances it just isn't.
Right. All right, so back to Judy. What sort of entities qualify for the business support? LLCs, S-Corp, others?
All entities, self-employed, sole proprietors, gig workers, don't hesitate. Absolutely everyone will be assisted.
Fabulous. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. That's great to hear. And do you know how people can check the status of an EIDL loan application?
They can't. There's no way to, you're not setting up an account with SBA or with EIDL, so there's no sign in, there's no checking your account, there's no checking your status. You have to have complete faith in the system. They will get back to you. Case managers are being assigned, are starting to work with companies. The case manager will contact you. There is an 800 number. If you have a very, so we're talking to the SBA on a daily basis, so I can certainly plug in specific questions if I don't have the answer to it. Come through us first. We'll try to answer the question. If not, we will contact the SBA and field questions and get back to you. And we can also share the 800 number. Yeah, you'll have to be patient on that phone line. Yeah.
Yeah, that again, when this happens, most of the time, I think we're prepped for regional emergencies as opposed to a national one, and we certainly appreciate all the hard work your team is doing and all up and down to try and get these resources out, but we know it's taking, some time.
And to be fair, like I said, we're talking daily to the SBA. They can't hire people fast enough. They're working 24/7. Literally, they really are. They're working so hard. So they will get back to you. I promise they will. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And our next question we have, is there a way to apply for a SBA loan without already having an established banking relationship? Because both of the banks this group had would not allow them to apply because they didn't already have a credit card or a line of credit, so they're not being eligible to apply.
Okay, so I hadn't heard that one before. If they have a business bank account with that bank, that should allow them to engage in the process. We actually originally, SBA was checking credit scores of the individual owners of the business. And from what I understand, even that requirement is starting to loosen up a little bit. So, as long as you have a business banking account with a bank, check with that bank, ask them if they're processing PPP loans. And if they're not, come back to us and we'll try and find someone who does.
Great. And this one I may know a little bit about. The link for COVID-19 in the SBA excludes farms. We are a farming operation augmenting our farm revenue with a vacation rental home and private event wedding business, the latter providing 70% of all revenues. Can we qualify? And I know our friends over at the Farm Bureau have been asking us to direct them there to try and help on some of those pieces. But to the question, is there anything else they can do since they have those other pieces of the business?
If they're all under the same legal entity or legal umbrella, and if it's deemed a farming operation, then we are referring those businesses to USDA. There are disaster programs available through USDA. If the separate businesses, the event planning, et cetera, are under a separate legal entity, they could apply separately for that, for EIDL and PPP. You can make as many EIDL and PPP applications as you have EIN numbers available.
Interesting. That's good. Good to know. And so in the original document, it stated businesses should average a year of payroll cost. SBA.gov stated an 8-week average of payroll cost. Now, did you just say it was 1 month from 2019, or which is the right kind of formula?
The last I saw was they're taking the average of 2019, 1 month from 2019, and multiplying that number by 2.5.
Right. And so in the application for EIDL loans, that obviously is going to take some time to get out, but will they contact people before sending the auto 10, or is that the 10,000, or is that kind of going to be it's going to show up one day and you're going to be like, hey, great.
Oh no, it's going to be one of those, yay, I got it. That's good news. Yeah, no, we've had a few businesses receive their up to 10K amount as of yesterday. So it's up to 10K. So on Monday and Tuesday, it was 10K, and then they made an edit, and now it says up to 10K. I'm not sure how they're making those determinations either, but you don't expect the full 10K. It might be less, it sounds like, but it does appear automatically in your checking account.
Great. So there was just a question, if you could repeat your recommendation to max out PPP loan and then use EIDL for other expenses, was that right?
Yeah, so max out PPP for payroll. Max it out for payroll because you will be able to obtain debt forgiveness on the entirety of the amount spent on payroll. And if you qualify for EIDL and can get a loan under EIDL, that's under EIDL. I don't think I explained that little detail. They're looking at expenses for 1 month. So basically your accounts payable on average for 1 month in 19 multiplied by 6 was a rule of thumb we were given. So they're giving you 6 months of runway of working capital under EIDL. Use that for your expenses, for non-payroll related expenses.
Right. And so as part of that, are those benefit costs, health plan benefit costs included as payroll expenses to be forgiven, or is that outside?
They are included, actually, yes.
Okay. Great.
And by the way, for owners of the businesses that are paying themselves through just income, non-salary type resources from the business, they can claim up to 100K per owner of the business, and they're capped at 100K when they're making their payroll calculation.
And so that was one of the questions that's not in here, but something we've been discussing and talking with our members about is there is that 100K cap. It doesn't exclude like all of it up if you're over 100. It's you can claim 100 and that's it. Exactly right. Okay, great. Yeah, because that was a question of whether if you were 125, do they count the first 100 and then leave the 25, or all of it's out? So that's a great piece of
claim the 100. Yes.
And where's the best place to go to find kind of up-to-date, kind of credible information on all the financial aid available? Is going to the SBA.gov?
For sure. I mean, the SBA has the most valuable information, but I'm going to right now, again, on the chat box, share a link. This is the Central California SBDC website. And there's a COVID tab. That tab is updated daily, mostly with SBA resources, but they're all in one place. So I'm going to share that right now in the chat box. And if you look under the tab I just shared, right. I mean, just the first 4 opportunities to click on that, under that tab, gives you all the detailed information, detailed resources on how to access PPP, EIDL, other types of loans.
Judy, real quick, can you change on your 2? There's one below it that has all panelists and attendees down underneath there.
Got it.
Then share it again, because I can see it, but I don't think the group can see it.
Yep, sorry about that.
No, it's good. Just want to make sure everybody got to see it.
There we go.
Perfect. That's great. Is a specific question about, regarding the EIDL, the EIDL. What about businesses that saw a surge in business during the work from home transition and that will have a delayed loss of income?
So that's a great question. So keep in mind, EIDL is going to be available through the end of the year. Again, that might change, it might get amended, but it is going to be, so far what we've seen is available through December 2020. PPP is available through, I think it's June, end of June 2020. So PPP is a more short-term disaster loan opportunity for sure, but all the way through, available through June. EIDL, and I don't know how long EIDL will be available in practice, but at least for now, it is deemed to be available through the end of the year.
Okay.
If
great.
you see something happening that you're not seeing now, and you're feeling, oh well, business is actually not so bad, but then all of a sudden 4 weeks from now, it's a different set of circumstances. Both of these loans should still be available up until through the end of June.
Great. Derek, if I can flip back to you for a second here, give Judy a breath. If you are not essential, you can sell online still, correct?
That is correct. And so I would just encourage the business community to go to www.readyslo.org, and there's a list of businesses that are essential, may operate. Let me make sure I'm getting the businesses open for limited services. And then the last category, businesses that have to close their physical location. So there's 3 categories. And the businesses that may remain open are brick and mortar businesses that are online or call orders only. And the products may be delivered curbside or mail delivery, no in-store public activity.
Yeah, obviously the key piece there, right? We're trying to keep that distancing to flatten that curve. And I know this person was asking, so I'll just give you the response while it's here. It's rock on. Thank you for your response and all your hard work. Glad we're a part of this community. Whether or not I'll be able to do this for my business, really been appreciative. So just wanted to pass that along. It's nice to, during this time, and again, that's why we want to express our appreciation to you, Judy. We really appreciate the time you're spending with our members and everybody around the community to answer these questions. So I'll go back to Judy because obviously EIDL and PPP, very excited questions here. This person filled out the SBA EIDL on Monday and didn't recall the application asking for recent losses, only a 12-month prior P&L. Did that change, or is that just something different?
Yeah, so it's changed 3 times since it came out. So don't worry, whatever you filled out is probably completely fine. They had much more stringent requirements a week ago, and they loosened that up on Monday. As long as you got an an SBA application number. Once you submitted your application, there should have been a screen with a number that popped up. That's your loan application number. If you have a loan application number, you're good to go.
Great. Question, clarification back on the LLCs. If it has multi-business locations in California, should the LLC fill out an EIDL for each location or just under the one?
They can only do one. If they have one EIN for one LLC, they can only do one. If they have set up an LLC for each of those locations, then sure, they can do one per LLC, but it's per entity, not per location.
Great. Can you clarify on the PPP loan? Company has furloughed several employees already. Part of what we heard, as long as employers are rehired by the June 30th, that the PPP payroll portion could still be forgiven. The statement seems to be in contradiction to our payroll for 8 weeks after the PPP loan originated. Any clarification or on what that would look like?
You know, if your employee was furloughed and you're not using that loan to pay payroll, you can't say you're using it or saving it for that future employee that's coming back for that future payroll you will be paying in the future. It's what are you paying right now for the next 8 weeks once you get the loan? It's supposed to cover your actual payroll costs for that 8-week period following the time you receive the loan. But from what I understand, the furloughed employees can obtain unemployment insurance to cover their costs during that furlough time. You know, for HR questions, we do have an HR task force in place. This is more of an HR question. It is outside of my area of expertise.
And it's
sign up with us. We'll assign you to an HR expert. I'd rather have the expert answer that question because I'm not giving you the proper answer here. So please sign up with us and we'll make sure you talk to the right HR expert.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those that's, you know, if you read it, you can make sure. So yeah, I would encourage that to get connected through that because it really does. We had Kathy Epwright and Tim Dassa from Glenn Burdett and Kathy Epwright from Andre Morris Buttery answering a few of these questions. And that was one of those where, you know, it really depended. So each one should get some specific expertise on that.
Yeah, I don't have the answer, yeah.
Yeah, no, a question came up, but I don't think it would fit into either yours, and I'll try and give you a little, at least from what I've heard. Will property tax be deferred? I know the county is due April 10th for property tax, but they have, if you go to the county website, you can apply for a waiver of the 10% penalty for the late payment. Because a normal late payment would have a 10% penalty. You can fill out an application there and go to the tax assessor's office to get rid of the 10% late fee for paying later.
Yeah, that's correct, and that's my understanding is if you can demonstrate that there was a causal relationship to the payment of late property tax to economic duress related to COVID-19.
Yeah, I should just leave it to you. That was well said, sir. All right, so this is a question, and as a 501c6, I think I know the answer, but are 501c6s able to do PPP?
I believe the last I read, it was for 501c3s and 501c19s, so not for 501c6s.
Correct. Yeah, and that's what I've been following. I mean, as you know, as chambers, we were working in those organizations. There was a discussion in that, but it's my understanding that that part was not included in the stimulus piece. If you're closed now, if you've closed operations, can you even apply for a PPP at that point or receive a PPP if you'll reopen to with that piece?
Well, so I mean, if you It does state that PPP would cover rehires. So the intention is that with the assistance of this loan, you could rehire employees and be back in business. I would say it's worth a shot. Yeah, I mean, for those types of questions, I would err on the side of go for it and apply. You never know. It's better to try and apply and get rejected than to not apply and not even know if you could have qualified. But there was some language that stated it would cover rehires. So under that umbrella, why not?
Right.
I would give it a shot.
Okay. Derek, is there more precise guidance on the application, and maybe this is more county related, depending on what the real estate industry sector as an essential business? I know there's this, it's an essential business, obviously, but how you do your work might be very different. Have we had any kind of more specifics to that?
This has been one area that I think there's been a little bit of confusion about, because there's home construction happening and there's obviously homes that need to be sold. Initially, the county order was to preclude model homes from being able to show in model homes. We received clarification from the state and the county earlier this week about the conditions of which model homes can open. Thus far, we haven't received any clarification from the Department of Real Estate or from the governor's office about listing of homes, private homes, et cetera. And currently, the response from the city and county is that that is not essential and it's a prohibited activity.
Right. Yeah, I certainly understand that, again, from that point of how we're connecting or trying to avoid those contamination, but certainly get from the real estate industry why some of that is obviously key.
And that's not to say that I think some realtors are doing virtual showings, and I know that we are seeing transactions that are happening virtually. And so, for example, to enable that, we have allowed photographers and videographers to go in and under some certain specifications to go in and do the photo documentation and videography to then list a home. And we have seen in some cases that there's been transaction completed through that media.
Great, thank you for that. If there are documents, Judy, that still need to be uploaded for a previous EIDL number, should we wait to hear from a case manager?
Correct. Again, you cannot go back into the application. Once it's submitted, you are completely done. There's absolutely no way for you to access that application again. The case manager will be in touch, and the case manager will follow up with you and ask you for all the backup documentation that they need. I posted in the chat box a FAQ on the PPP program, and it answers a lot of questions, especially for independent contractors. Yes, they're eligible. So are gig workers, but a lot of these other little questions that maybe we haven't gotten to. I posted a link to that Q&A in case we have to wrap up.
Sure. That's yeah, good point, and I appreciate you putting that there. This was an interesting question we haven't hit yet, and was options for multi-industry nonprofit with large number of student intermittent employees to segment businesses by NAICS codes and submit that way. Do you know anything about that, since the total head count of employees may be greater, but those segments may be less?
That's right. So even though, so the PPP and the EIDL are available to small businesses. Small businesses are businesses with less than 500 employees. So we've had requests from businesses that have more than 500 employees. You may still qualify if you have more than 500 employees. So the step 2 is to check your NAICS code, your NAICS code. And under the NAICS code, I'm going to see if I can find the link and post it on the chat box. There's an option on the SBA website to look up your NAICS code. And if you make less than a certain amount of revenue per year under that NAICS code, you may still qualify even though you have more than 500 employees. So yes, it's worth looking into.
And so to that point, and I know we got a couple questions here, in determining, full-time equivalent employee count, if you have a business that has full-time or mostly part-time workers, is there an easy way to do that, or is it kind of a case-by-case basis?
My understanding is that they're counting head count, full-time or part-time. You can't add 2 part-times to make 1 full-time. It's number of employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they get the PPP applications from the bank, or is that through?
Yeah, so most banks, the ones that are agreeing to process the PPP loans, have made the forms available on their website. So again, call your bank, make sure they are agreeing to process these. The forms should be available on their website directly. I can see if I can find a link for the forms as well.
And yeah, there was a question here if we can send all those links out in an email. We'll go ahead and download and hopefully have all of those emails. So we'll try to go back through here and pull them all and segregate them and send them out to the attendees to make sure we get them all those back out. Another question on the 501c6 is, do they qualify, the EIDL piece qualify for 501c6s on that side?
My understanding is it's only for C3s and C19s, also on the EIDL side.
Okay, great. Let's see, what, okay, so it was we've had a couple questions here from the nonprofits. Again, we're obviously a lot of nonprofits in this area. If you are the 501c3 and 19, there's a lot of programs in here. If you're in the 501c3 or C6s, that's going to be, if anything happens on it, it's going to have to come in future bills, because right now I don't think that is the case.
Mm-hmm. And also remember, sorry, just to jump in real quick, especially for the sole proprietors, the solo entrepreneurs, the ones that are concerned, they may not qualify for EIDL and PPP. They do qualify for unemployment benefits, and those unemployment benefits have been, again, I'm not the HR expert, but they've been significantly expanded. So check in with EDD. On the EDD website, there's a lot of very comprehensive information on how to apply for those benefits, and those are being paid immediately. So there's an opportunity there to get relief if you have no source of income coming in at this time.
And so, Judy, kind of a clarifying question in that EIDL loan, we talked about, maybe it's later. Was there something or is it change that shows proof of loss of income in February to qualify for the EIDL loan?
I mean, maybe the loss of income hasn't occurred until March, but you have to show that there's a trend towards loss. So likely most businesses may not have seen it until March, and that's fine.
And if you all of a sudden, your business all of a sudden kind of took off when the down, like if you were a tech company, maybe you're getting a lot more, but then you're going to see the loss in the future months, April, May, June, that may or may not be available for loans?
No, you can still apply. You'll be able to apply. The loans, EIDL is available through December 16, 2020. And PPP through June 30th, 2020.
Judy, can independent contractors work with the SBDC?
Yes.
Lovely's one. That's a great question. Boom. That's one word answers. Those are great. What actual lenders can we contact who are processing PPP? Is it just, again, there's a segment, a group that's still open and being determined since today is the first day?
I know that's probably the #1 question we're getting today. I completely understand. Again, check with the bank that you bank with. Check with them. They will give you priority if you're a client of the bank. If your bank is not processing PPPs, then sign up with us, contact us. We will we're trying to figure out who can provide that support. And the SBA too actually is trying to get non-approved lenders to get on board to help process the high demand.
Great. Is there a quick summary of the documents required in addition to the application? When will the forgiven status be given? Are you submitting backup documents if you get the PPP loan? Will you have to submit payroll documents, or would that be part of your tax filings or something like that?
That's a great question. So, we do recommend that once you qualify for the loan, so there's going to be a lot of regulations coming out over the next few days to refine the information on how to handle the process. But until then, most people won't see the funding come in, I would guess, for another 3 or 4, at least 2 weeks out, at a minimum, 2 to 3 weeks. So by then, regulations will come out to help give guidelines on how to track what you need to be tracking to get loan forgiveness. But until then, track as closely as you can all payroll payments being made. But regulations will come out and we will share those.
And on another question here on filling out the PPP application, it's asking for their EIDL loan amount. They don't know that yet. Should they just put 0 or?
Exactly. Yes. That's come up many times today. Most people haven't received their EIDL loan, so they don't know what it is. They don't know even if they're going to be receiving it. So regardless, just put 0 for now, and it is what it is.
We have a person that applied for the unemployment insurance and an SBA EIDL, an EIDL. If I get one, do I need to cancel the other? Does getting approved for an EIDL disqualify? Well, this is from someone who was early, who I don't think's been here, but EIDL disqualify you from PPP? As you said, no, they kind of work together for all the different things you want to cover. But
they're working together for now. But as you can see, 24 hours ago, the PPP didn't ask for any information about EIDL. Today, 24 hours later, they're asking for EIDL info on the PPP. So I think the intention is to eventually merge EIDL into PPP so that each business owner only has one disaster loan in place per business. And then, EIDL, as I said, is available until December 16, 2020. I'm not sure. So I'm not sure what's going to, it's changing daily. Until then, both are available. You can apply for both. When PPP asks you for how much your loan amount is under EIDL, you have not received EIDL yet. You don't know how much that amount will be, just put in 0.
Yeah, that's a great point. And as we're getting hopefully close here to the end, and really appreciate you spending the time on these, and we're getting close to having to close out. If somebody wanted to hire someone prior to the event and has work now to do that, could that new work qualify for forgiveness in the loan? So it's a new employee. They didn't exist prior to the COVID response, but now they want to hire someone and part-time, and would the grant cover that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well hired. If it's payroll, it qualifies. Absolutely. Yes. No, I mean, again, think about the intention of the law. The intention is we want you as a business owner to keep people employed and to be able to pay them. And if you can create jobs and hire people, all the better. We will support that. So if you keep in mind the intention of the law, if you're doing all those things, then yes, you will be able to use that loan money for anything that has to do with payroll. The SBA wants to help business owners maintain their workforce, and if they can create new jobs, all the better. That's great.
As a commercial landowner, if you own apartment buildings or operated by individuals and tenants that don't pay their monthly rent, is that a part of this program, or is there a separate program to assist property owners or commercial?
I mean, if that's your business, if your business is, if you own real estate and you manage that property and you're renting it out, that's your business. That qualifies as a business. Yes, you can apply.
Real quick, to show a loss, is that for gross or net income? Or is it just a loss in general of revenue, or are you saying that, yeah?
Yeah, I think they're just looking at gross revenue.
Okay.
Like there's less money coming in, period.
Right, yeah, that's how I kind of interpret it. What constitutes a new business for the PPP application? How would a business incorporated in March 2019 be categorized?
So I had a conversation about that with the SBA. I think as long as you were in existence prior to, I want to say February 15. I'm not sure now if it's February 15 or January 31st, but as long as your business was in existence prior to at least January 31st of 2020, you can still potentially apply.
Great. And so this one, just kind of complex. So eligible recipients may qualify for a loan up to $10 million determined by 8 weeks of prior average payroll plus an additional 25% of that amount, or is that gone? Is the 25% still true, or is the application, or is that being added in, or now is that changed?
Okay, so hang on. I was just looking at one. Let me pull it up real quick.
Sure.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, as she works on that answer, I just want to give you a clarification on the real estate item before we drop off the call today.
Yeah, you go ahead. We can wait. We can do it now. That'd be great.
Sure. Just on real estate, and just to be clear, I put some information in for all attendees, what the California Association of Realtors is providing. They provided guidelines for residential showings. Essentially, real estate sales marketing for no open houses or model home tours. Showing should be done virtually if possible. If you can't, then you can do them on appointment only with a single client at a time. So single client at a time, model homes and listings must maintain physical distancing and sanitizing practices. So just to be clear, and so this is changing literally real time as we go through the week, and so just want to make sure, folks, and I put the information into the background, into the notes.
Great, thank you, sir. Judy, I don't know if you're planning, but
so, you know, I was confused because I had seen that plus 25%, but the latest form states that average monthly payroll times 2.5 to be very clear. So forget the 8 weeks for now. You have 8 weeks to use up the loan to pay payroll, and that's a different thing. But as far as determining the loan amount, it's the average monthly payroll of 19 multiplied by 2.5 plus EIDL. If you've received it, I don't know of anyone who's received IDL yet, so that amount right now is 0, and that's it. That is it. It doesn't mean, again, that you can't use that loan to pay non-payroll expenses. You certainly can, but keep in mind that the amount that will be forgiven, 75% of the total amount has to have been used for payroll to be forgiven.
Right.
So maybe that's where also the other 25% piece is kicking in. You can forgive 25% of the total forgiven amount. You can have used 25% of that to pay rent and utilities. Yeah.
Great. This is a funny question, and one we've heard in other places is, employees don't necessarily want to come back to work with the additional federal unemployment insurance amounts. You know, how does that happen or help, or do you now hire someone else who does want to work at that?
So, I mean, sure, there's unemployment for 39 weeks, but the extra $600 per week in addition to the regular unemployment is only going to be available, I think, for 8 weeks. So it's not forever. Keep that in mind. Yeah. You know, try and think about investing long-term in your career and your professional development.
Right. Does a case manager always make contact before monies are received, or will they, be reaching out?
Yes, aside from the up to 10K loan advance, you will you will receive that prior to talking to a case manager.
Right. But then after that, for the bigger pieces, that you'll get a direct contact from the case manager.
Correct.
Right. Do you need to have filed your 2019 tax return to apply for the loans?
No. They're only going to be looking at 17 and 18. They completely understand that most people don't have 19 ready. So no worries about that.
Right. And so I know we're down to our last few minutes here. We'll make this the last question. 501c3 and our income does not start flowing into accounts until September, October. Current operating costs for accounting, media storage, and event planning. If event sales are impacted later in the year, can we apply for assistance retroactively for expenditures that are happening now? Sign up on the website, and that one sounds pretty specific.
Well, so, if you have expenses that are accumulating, yes, you eventually, of course, you're going to use your loan to pay off your expenses. You can also negotiate with vendors, suppliers, try to postpone events, postpone costs, negotiate down the amount of the cost of what's due. There's standard business operating procedures, right, that you can implement. But what's due is due. The loan is to help you pay off your expenses. So if you've accumulated expenses, yes, those will be due, and you can use the loan to pay those off.
Well, let me thank both of you for spending so much time with our group here. It's been really appreciative. I know I'm watching the chat, and a lot of people thanking you for the incredible work you're doing. Our business community really, truly appreciates it. We know that we know they're struggling, but we also know that is also you're doing everything you can to try and balance all of these issues. And we're truly blessed to have you in our community, and just really want to say thank you so much for spending so much time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Judy. Thanks, Chamber.
Great. We will put this, this will be going up live on our website at slochamber.org as soon as we're able to compile it. It's also on our Facebook, on Facebook Live, our Facebook page. You can also go to Connect SLO, which is a great resource group to share information across all of what's happening and staying connected to our community. But if you can follow us on our social media, that will help us keep sharing information. We're going to do more of these great conversations with people just like this, and trying to answer your questions and get you connected. So thank you to everyone who's here today. Everybody go out, be safe, be healthy, be well. Thank you.